Have you ever been on a podcast interview and at the end you're like, wow, they didn't ask me about my book. We didn't talk about the course. We didn't talk about how I could help people. Well, you missed a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I am going to teach you the simple question you can ask to make sure that you get your goals met for every podcast. But first, let me introduce you to a great friend and a great podcast host.
Hi, this is Dan Miller, host of the 48 Days podcast. A lot of you have discovered that part of doing the work you love includes a podcast. And I commend you on upping your game by listening to Podcast Guest Profits, hosted by my good friend Tom Schwab, sponsored by Interview Valet.
You know, Dan taught me it's the questions that we ask that are most important, not always the answers we give. And one of the most important questions that you can ask a podcast host before an interview is a question to set where you're going. You know, Stephen Covey talks about starting with the end in mind, and this is a great way to do it. So when you get invited on a podcast, before they hit record, one of the great things that you can do, one of the things that we teach all of our clients at Interview Valet is to thank the host. Say, Miss Host, I am so glad to be on your show. I'm so honored to be here. What can I do to bring the most value to your audience? What are you hoping to get out of this? And they'll tell you exactly where they want to go with this. Also, most people are very nice. And at the end, they're going to come back to you and say, Tom, what are you hoping to get out of this? And even if they don't, you can say, oh, I will definitely do that. I will definitely hit on all those. And then you can say, well, this is what I'm hoping to get out of the interview. You know, it's like starting with the end in mind. Both parties know where they're going. Often I'll listen to a podcast interview and just sort of cringe. It's like the music starts and they're both doing two different dances. They figure it out eventually, but it takes some time. So if you do this, you'll find that the host is bringing up things before you can. So if you want to talk about your new book and you mention it before they hit record, guess what? Part the way through the interview, they're going to say, hey, I was reading your book, or let's talk about your book. They'll bring it up. If it's about your course, they'll bring it up. If it's about how you help people with coaching, what your new product does, what your new software does, they will bring it up. And it makes it so much more comfortable with that. So if you get to the end of a podcast interview and you're like, wow, that didn't meet my goals. Well, you just not only wasted your time, but you wasted a once in a lifetime opportunity. I would encourage you at the very beginning of the podcast, the most important question that you can ask that podcast host is, what do you hope to get out of this interview? And what can I do to deliver for you? And then share what your goals are. You need to take control of this. You need to be proactive with it. Podcast hosts are busy. They do a lot of things. Maybe there's a dozen interviews that they're doing back to back. The idea that they're going to remember exactly what you're there for, what you want to accomplish, is putting a lot of the burden on them. Make them look great, make it easy for them, and share with them what you hope to get out of the interview. Tomorrow, we're going to have an extended interview. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got Cody with us. It's a recording or a conversation that I had with him earlier. We're going to play that tomorrow. Cody is one of the most amazing and interesting accountants I have ever met. He was an early client of Interview Valet, and he's going to share how he got a 600% return on investment in the first year and 1,200% in the second year. I love accountants. They know their numbers. You'll love Craig, and I'll see you tomorrow.